I'm Adrian. If you don't know me, I'm one of the pastors here. And for all of our guests visiting with us, we want to welcome you. We've got plenty of people coming into the life of our church. Why don't we give our guests a hand? It's great to have you with us. And we hope you are blessed and feel welcome. John chapter 10, verse 10 and 11. Here's a scripture for today. John 10, 10 and 11. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. I want to talk to you today about the thief and the shepherd. The thief and the shepherd. You know, if anything, over the last 2 years, it's taught us anything, it's taught me that there are two ways of living life. There are two ways of seeing life. There are two ways of treating people. There are two ways to look at how we're going to live our life. And this scripture talks to us about those two ways, the thief and the shepherd. So I want to talk to us about that today and have a look at the difference and ask us the question, how are we going to live our lives? Are we going to live our lives being dominated by the thief or being loved by the shepherd? And then are we going to live our lives as a thief or as a shepherd ourselves? And so let's have a look at that, shall we? The first thing I want to look at, it talks about in this passage, it talks about the thief. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. Interestingly, so I was looking at this, I've always often looked at that, and many people do go, oh, the thief is the devil. And the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy from your life, and he wants to take, and we've got to stand against the devil. And it's true, there's spiritual evil forces out there. The devil wants to take us out. But in this passage, actually, I believe Jesus wasn't talking just about the devil. The devil is sort of the father of lies and all this. But I think he was talking about people and the way people treat other people. Because Jesus was in a society where people were being dominated. The Jewish people themselves were being ruled by the Romans, and they weren't easy rulers. They were dominating rulers. They'd take taxes off them. They'd kill people if they stood against their empire. They were a harsh regime. And even within the Jewish people, you had tax collectors, and they were taking advantage of others. And the Pharisees, if you know the Gospels, you'll see Jesus would rant and talk against the Pharisees because of their domination and control of other people. And so Jesus says here, the thief comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. Jesus is talking about this human nature that desires to be top itself and will be willing to use and abuse and dominate other people in order to do that. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Who knows that we all experience that in our lives? Every one of us has experienced that thieving in our lives from other people, other regimes, other even cultures and governmental forces and people. I remember even as a kid, and this is sad, this is a true story. To my shame, I've got a younger sister, for those of you who don't know. She's a year and a half younger than me, just her and I. And you'd think that as the older brother that I'd look out for her. And I do most of the time. But there were occasions where that thief within me, that human nature within me would rise up. And one of those occasions was when we'd gone to the show and we'd gotten a whole heap of show bags. And we'd loaded up on those show bags, and I love sweets. My daughter says, hey, Dad, you love sweets. You just love them. You love lollies and chocolate. I do, all right? And I'd gotten my show bags, taken them home, and I scoffed myself. I pigged out on those. Within 3 days, I reckon 3 or 4 show bags of lollies were gone. Who knows what I'm talking about? All right? Licorice, and I just loved it. I ate all my show bags. My sister, on the other hand, she stored hers. They got stored away somewhere. I didn't even know where, but she stored them away. And I found out about it. All mine were gone. So I came up with a game. I said to my sister, my innocent, loving sister, trusting sister, I said, Katrina, why don't we play a mini Olympics? And so we organised to play a mini Olympics game where we go, we'll play games. And she was desperate for attention and to spend time with her big brother. And she's like, that sounds awesome. He wants to play these games. This is going to be fantastic. So I devised these games that we'd play. And I said, well, to make them worthwhile, we need a prize at the end of it. And guess what? We know where this is going. I said, do we have any prizes? Oh, Katrina, you've got your show bags still there. What if we use those as prizes? She's like, okay, sounds good. And so we started playing games all afternoon. These wonderful games with her older brother. And I won every single one of them. And after each time I'd won, I'd say, Katrina, another lolly, please. Another lolly, please. Another lolly. Before the afternoon was over, I had scoffed all of her lollies from her show bags. And she innocently didn't realize until the last one was gone. And then she realized her brother was a thief. Her brother had tried to steal, to kill her dreams and hopes, and destroy her enjoyment of life. Because it's in our hearts. I remember another time, my sister and I, she was part of it this time. We went to the supermarket to do the shopping with my mum. I still remember it because it's ingrained in my heart because I still feel bad about it. I can't remember which supermarket. It was in Adelaide. It's long past. But here's my confession today. We walked past, who remembers the little golden books? The little golden books, like, what is it? The tugboat one and all these other ones. And we saw a book that we'd been wanting for ages. And we said, Mum, please, can we get this one about the tugboat? And my mum, harsh. She's doing the shop and goes, no, you've got enough books at home. We begged her, we asked her, she said no. There was no going back. She wasn't going to say yes. My sister and I looked at each other. We grabbed that book without my mum seeing. We put it at the bottom of the trolley. And as they went through the trolley thing and mum's putting all the stuff, we quickly grabbed that book and we put it behind and we walked back out and we stole the little golden book. We stole it, guys. My sister and I felt bad about that for our entire lives. And I realized I don't even know the supermarket it came from. I can't go back. I can't take it back because I don't know where the book is. I was a thief. I think it's the only time I've ever thieved something in my life. But I still remember it because deep in the human heart, there comes a desire to look after itself. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And the truth of the matter is that's in the human nature. It's been in it for generations and centuries and millennia. And the reality is that in your life and my life, we get hurt by the thief, don't we? Others, whether they even know. You look at our society is actually built upon inequality, much of it. And it's built upon, look through the centuries and history, people using and abusing others, slavery, domination, and money and power so that others can be used. And this affects us. And then the great problem is that we go, that's terrible, that's bad. But then we look in ourselves and we see it even in ourselves, the desire to look after ourselves and our own hurts that we've perpetrated on others. The thief that Jesus is talking about, it's not the devil, it's human beings lost in sin and selfishness, hurting and thieving against each other. And the truth is that comes to destroy us. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Come on, we've been through 2 years where we've seen that in human nature. Who thought that Australia was this nice, homogenous, wonderful group of people who all love each other and we're all kind and caring? We'll throw in a virus for a couple of years and you'll see how we really feel. And you see the issues that come up. And people going against here and there and feeling hurt and used and upset and taken advantage of and all the stuff going on. Because it's human nature, guys. And it hurts us. And if we let it take over our lives and if we choose to live like the thief, because that's the way the world will naturally go, then we end up hurting others. And it ends up hurting ourselves the most. But then we have the other, the shepherd. See, it says the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. And then Jesus says, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. There is a different way of living. And I want to tell you, Christians, I am frustrated because Christianity in Australia doesn't have a good name anymore. And some of that's some good reason for, because I think many times Christians have lost sight of who Jesus is and who we are because of that. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but Jesus came that we may have life and we may have it to the full. And he says, I am the good shepherd. He's the only good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. See, the shepherd, Jesus was showing us, shows the true heart of God. The shepherd shows God's heart. The thief shows human nature and where we end up without God. But the shepherd, that image of the shepherd, shows us the true heart of God. He says, I will care for the sheep. I am the one who's come to bring life. And too many Christians are not living. We're not living in that life. We're living like we're being dominated by the world and held down and pushed down. And yet Jesus came to give us life. Don't you want to live in that life? Come on, I want to live in that life. And this is the truth. Jesus told us that doesn't matter what happens to you and I and what happens in society, we can live in that life. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are. If Jesus is truly who he said he is, then you can live life to the full, even in the midst of pain and suffering and with the thief coming to try and attack. I want to live that kind of life. This is the life I want to live. We see it in Psalm 23, the famous passage, don't we? Let's read it together. In Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. This is the life that he wants to give to us, and he wants that. This is life to the full. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The good shepherd wants to come and give you life that is beyond the comforts of this world. And if you read that psalm and you really meditate on it, you'll discover in the midst of suffering and in the midst of being dominated and persecuted by enemies, in the midst of walking in the valley of the shadow of death, you can have life to the full. That's the Christian life. That's the life. That's what I want. And I don't live there all the time because the thief in me and the thief around me tries to grab a hold of my life and dominate me. It tries to get me to live like it because it looks appealing some of the time. Well, they're thieving me, so I'll do the same. I'll live like that. I'll look after myself. But the life that Jesus comes, the life of the Good Shepherd, is a completely different life, friend. And Christians, we've got to decide whether we are going to live the life of the Good Shepherd in his peace and protection and that outworking in us, or whether we're going to let the thief dominate our lives. Because too many people let the thief dominate. But he doesn't have to, friend. The Good Shepherd can rule your life. The Good Shepherd can give you true life. Even when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Isn't it true? I was thinking about this the other day. In many ways, this whole life is walking in the valley of the shadow of death. This whole life, you're just one moment away from something going wrong or something bad happening. We've learnt that over the last 2 years. Some of us have learned it harder than others. This whole life is you're walking in this valley of this shadow of death, and fear can come and attack. And something could go wrong. My health could go backwards. I could lose my job. A virus could come and change everything. But even when we're walking in the unknown, we don't have to be people of fear. I will fear no evil, for he is there. The Good Shepherd is with me in the middle of it all. So, how are we going to live? We're going to live under the control and influence of the thief, or are we going to be people, followers of Jesus Christ, who will let the Good Shepherd rule our lives? Can I just go through with us today 3 things about the shepherd, the differences, there's many of them, but the differences between the shepherd and the thief. The kind of life that the shepherd wants to lead us into, and the life the thief wants to control us with. The first one is this: the shepherd is uplifting. Uplifting, the thief judges. Uplifting, not judging. The thief wants to judge us and control us and put us in our place and categorize you. But Jesus always comes and uplifts us and accepts us and builds us up and shows us a better way and shows us that you are more than you think you are. Don't you realize that? This is the other frustration I have many times about Christianity, and I know a lot of young people have this about Christianity, and I don't blame them. Because when they look at Christianity, and sadly, you know, a lot of what they see is judgment. You be like this or else. You conform to a certain way or God doesn't accept you and we don't accept you and you're in big trouble. And we got to, as a church, as a pastor, as a people of God, we've got to realize that our young people, they need to see the shepherd, not the mighty great judge that you obey. Because you know what young people do when they get threatened? They go, well, stuff that. I'll go do what I want. You're going to threaten me? You're going to tell me I have to conform? I'm not going to conform. And yet Christianity has become known for you better behave or else. And I'm not saying it's a free-for-all, because I think our young people know, and everyone knows, that a free-for-all and anarchy is not the way to live. And it's not a healthy way to live. But what I am saying is that the heart of the shepherd is to lift up and build up, not to judge and demand. Some of us grew up in church, didn't we? And you used to get looked at on how you dressed. And if you didn't dress with certain clothes, praise God, we're beyond that now. You know, I grew up in churches where, you know, I remember my mum growing up in church, and even when I was a kid, and it's like women had to wear certain clothes, and if you had short hair, ooh, my mum couldn't even wear earrings, you know. And we used to dress in a suit, and I've heard stories of people, maybe you were affected by it, where people would walk into a church and because they weren't dressed a certain way, they were told by one of the leaders, hey, you can't come in here. Judgment. That's not who Jesus is. Jesus stood against the Pharisees. Why? Because they were trying to judge others. And you know where judgment comes from? Judgment comes from the thief. It comes from a desire to make yourself feel better at the expense of someone else. Not godly judgment, not justice, not seeing the pain and suffering of others. Jesus came and he would speak out against pain and suffering in others. But he wouldn't speak judgment over someone to control them and dominate them and make them diminished. So Jesus would go to the tax collector, and he would go to the lepers, and he would go to those who were judged by others, and he would lift them up. Come on, the shepherd lifts you up, friends. Jesus says this in John 8:15. You judge me by human standards, but I do not judge anyone. I want to ask you, Christian, are you living under the condemnation of the thief? Or are you living in the light of the love and the acceptance and the lifting up of the shepherd? Because too many Christians are living under judgment, thinking God's saying this and that and the other about them. But Jesus says, I haven't come to judge anyone. I've come to lift you up. I've come to show you the shepherd. I've come to show you the better way, the loving way. John 12:47. And if anyone hears my words and does not believe, I do not judge him. For I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. Isn't that a good message? Sometimes Christians, I'm on a mission. I'll probably fail. But I'm on a mission to try and show those who've rejected Christianity that it isn't what they think it is. Christianity is not this judgmental religion that makes you conform or else. It is the opposite of that. It is the way of life that Jesus came to show us. He said, I'm not here to judge, I'm here to save, I'm here to lift you up. And Christians, if we're going to show the world that, you and I have got to get that in our hearts. And people get scared because they go, if you preach that, Adrian, people are going to do whatever they want. I'll give you a little hint about life. In the end, people do whatever they want anyway. They just don't tell you. Discovered that. People are going to do what they want. Control and judgment does not change the world. It doesn't change the human heart. The only thing that changes the human heart is the love of Jesus Christ. And that is what we need to have in our heart. And when you feel condemned for your wrongdoing, making yourself feel like God is angry at you does not help lead you back towards Him. It pushes you further away. When you realize that He hasn't come to judge but love and accept you, it makes you want to run back into His arms and live a different kind of life. So, friend, are you living under the uplifting arms of the shepherd, or are you living under the judgmental control of the thief? And then are you living and sharing the love of Jesus with others in an uplifting way? Or are you bringing control? The second thing between the thief and the shepherd is loving, not fighting for control and for power. The thief and human nature is always fighting for something, isn't it? Fighting for my rights, fighting for domination, fighting for selfish ambition, for more money, more power. I want to be the top dog. We see it in society. We see it in history. We see different groups of people and minority groups that have been pushed down so others can have control. But the shepherd says, I've come to love, not to fight. Heard someone say the other day, what greater revenge against violence than peace? What greater revenge against death than life? I wish we could get a hold of this, friend, because we are in a battle, even as Christians, to understand what Jesus came to bring. He came to turn society upside down. He didn't come to take us and make us the top dogs the way the world sees. Sometimes as Christians, we're like, we're going to be the top group. We're going to be the champions. We're going to dominate. And we take that mentality. We're going to fight this and fight that. Jesus actually didn't come to fight. He didn't come to be the top dog. The people wanted him to be. They wanted him to take over the Romans. They wanted him to tell the Pharisees and get them out the way. What did Jesus do? He kept showing love and grace to those who couldn't repay him back. And in the end, they dominated him the way the world sees it. And seemingly the thieves won, didn't they? But Jesus' way, God's way, is that even when the thieves think they've won, love conquers them. So you don't need to fight. I'm not talking about spiritual battles and spiritual fighting. I'm talking about fighting for rights and fighting in this and saying, I want to be this, and checking our motives. We've already won, but we've won in a way that is completely opposite to the way the world sees winning. So Christians, this is what, if you want to be transformed by Christianity, we got to start to get our heads around that more. We got to start to understand that concept more, because I am not here to be a Christian that wins the way the world wins and dominates and get prosperity and riches and power and influence. Yes, we've won. And you know what's happened, guys? And we see it in churches, we see it in leaders. The sad truth is they look like they've won, but what they've actually done is thieved a lot of the time. And taken, and they've dominated others. And to get to those powerful positions, we see it, and people have been deceived by the thief and its ways. It might look good and we aspire to those things, but the true shepherd says, no, I'm going to love, not fight, and get my way. We've already won, friend. You don't have to fight your battles. Can I encourage us to do this? You know who we should be fighting for? Those who can't fight for themselves. Jesus fought for those who couldn't fight for themselves. That's why he went to those who were the lowly and the downtrodden and captives to society and being dominated by others. Oh, let's fight for them, friends. Let's speak up on their behalf. We should be speaking up. You know what? I was ashamed and disappointed this week. In our country, our government, because we've left many thousands of Afghan people there where we fought in that nation. And we got out and we left thousands of them behind who'd helped us and served with us and tried to change that nation around. And when we got out, thousands have been left behind. And there's been a plea put out by people saying, why don't we accept another 20,000 on top of our current refugee intake? Why don't we accept another 20,000 Afghan refugees who are desperate and need, and for their own protection and livelihoods and safety, they need to get out of Afghanistan? And the government said, oh yeah, we'll think about it, we'll think about it, we'll think about it. Well, this week they announced, and it sounded like a good announcement, oh, we're going to bring 15,000 Afghan refugees over the next 4 years. Sounded like a good announcement, but you know what it was? They said, no, that's not extra from Afghanistan. That's from the current refugee intakes that we take every year, that they actually decreased in 2020. And so our government said, rather than helping Afghanistan people who need our support and help, we're going to say, oh, nah, we'll just do it our way because we're going to look after ourselves and it's all too hard at the moment. And I know that can get political and all that. Forget the politics of it for a second. Where's our compassion? Where's our heart? Come on. The Jesus I know would be fighting and saying, come on, government. And I've made a point. I've written into my local member to say, not making a political point, but saying, I'm dismayed because I think our nation should be helping those that can't help themselves, and we should be doing something there. And I want to tell you, friend, I love when our young people, our young adults get fired up over justice issues because they can see the injustice of the world and they say it's not okay to leave it that way. Fight those fights. That's the fight of the shepherd. The fight of the shepherd says, I'll go after the one that is by itself and abandoned and can't help itself. I'll go and protect them and look after them. They're the fights of the Christian, my friend. And I want to encourage you, friend, look for those in need. Look for those who can't help themselves wherever they are and say, I'm going to do my bit. You say, what can I do? You can do much. You can help those around you. You can write in. You can make a stand. You can say to those around you saying, hey, we should be doing something different about this. We should be people of compassion. I'm not going to live my life the thief looking after myself and my society. We're going to fight those fights, but when it comes to how I treat others and fighting for my rights and my way, I'm going to love. And if I get taken advantage of, what am I going to do? I'm going to love. Because I know who I am, because I know the shepherd's looking after me. I don't know, who likes the tennis here? I was watching the tennis. I love watching the tennis. And I was watching the semi-final match, Medvedev versus Tsitsipas. And Medvedev, he's good at antagonizing the crowd. He's the number 2 player in the world. Just won a Grand Slam. He's on his way to winning this semi-final. And they showed it over and over again. He sits down at the change of ends and has a break, and he starts yelling at the umpire. Because his opponent, he reckons that his opponent's dad might be trying to coach him in Greek. He doesn't know if he is, but he starts yelling and freaking out. You've got to do something. Listen to me. Look at me. And he's yelling and sweat's beading down. His spit's coming out his mouth. The guy's winning the match. He did win the match. The guy's on his way to earning a minimum of $1.6 million. And here he is fighting for what? You know what? I thought about it. Reminded me of us as Christians sometimes. Jesus is our good shepherd. He's loved you. He's set you free. He's given you a hope and a future and a destiny. What do? It's not fair they took a bigger bowl of cereal. It's not fair. I didn't get my bonus like I should have. We get so focused on the little things and we fight for them. And meanwhile, we've lost the picture of who Jesus is. See, when you see the bigger picture, if Medvedev saw the bigger picture, he would have gone, what am I doing? And you know what? To his credit, at the end of the match, he said, what? He goes, I lost the plot, guys. He goes, he apologized to the umpire. He apologized to the crowd. He goes, sorry, I lost the plot. He goes, it didn't help me. It didn't help anyone. He goes, I've got to get control of myself. I want to say that to myself sometimes. Adrian, you've got to get control of yourself. You're caught up in the little details and you're fighting. And meanwhile, the shepherd has set you free. The shepherd has given you life and life to the full. Come on, it's time to lift our eyes and see it, friend, isn't it? Loving, not fighting. Loving. Come on, what has God given you that you can be grateful for? What has God given you in the midst of pain and suffering? Even when things go wrong, lift your eyes. I have to do it all the time. That's why I go down and I'll meditate and I'll pray and I'll worship. You know what I'm doing? I'm lifting my eyes to the shepherd rather than looking down at the thief, because the thief makes me want to fight and scringe and scrounge for everything I've got. But the shepherd says, Adrian, love, it's okay. You've already won. You've already won. Finally, the shepherd gives, not takes. Giving, not taking. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. What a contrast, hey? The thief comes to steal, to kill, to destroy. Selfish, destructive. The shepherd says, I will lay down my life for you. There is a beauty in the gospel that you cannot encapsulate in words, friend. And if it captures your heart, it will change your life. And when it captures your heart, you can't express it, and you do sometimes get frustrated. Why can't people see it? Why can't people see it? I get frustrated at myself. Lord, help me to see it more, because the shepherd is so free and is so full of life and so full of love and so uplifting and so full of joy and beauty and hope, that the shepherd comes and says, here you go, here's my life. Take it, it's yours. I've got nothing to hold on to. I've got nothing to defend. I've got nothing that I need to keep. I give it to you. That's the shepherd, friend. That's Jesus Christ. That's why he came. He said, I am the good shepherd, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Who are the sheep? It were the people he was talking to. It's the millennia, through the millennia, the people of generations. It's you and it's me. He came to change the universe, friend. He came to show us God's heart. And the heart of God gives. The heart of God gives. Why does he give? Because he's love. Why does he give? Because he's life. Why does he give? Because he wants to. Why does he give? Because, he gets something. No, because God gives. Because he is fully content in himself, and he doesn't need to hold anything back. He doesn't need to protect anything. And friends, he gives you that life. He's given it to you, that life. The life beyond any other life that says, here's my life. You don't need anything else. Now you can just give. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to prove anything to me. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Just give. Because you're loved and you got my life and you're accepted and you're mine. So you're going to live like the thief? That leads to death, friend. Take. I need more. I need more money. I need more influence. I need more power. I need more popularity. I need more likes on my Facebook page. I don't use Facebook very much at all. One of the reasons I don't, I'm not against people doing it, but it gets you in, doesn't it? And Instagram gets you in. Because I put a post up the other day. I just shared it from the Connect Casey about moving venues. A whole bunch of people I know saw it. And before I knew it, I got over 1,000 likes. I'm like, oh, or 1,000 views or whatever it was. And all these comments. I was like, oh, that's nice. I could put another one up. And suddenly people get trapped. The thieving Facebook, Instagram mentality. Then you look, oh, that's got more likes than me. How come they've got 500,000 followers and they're not even doing anything? They're just called an influencer. What does that even mean? What have they achieved? Well, what I've done is I've put photos of myself up on a page and people look at them and like them, and now I influence people. It's all dumb. But it gets you in because you get controlled by that. And then you start rating yourself on how many likes you've got, how many people viewed your stuff, and all this garbage, and it makes you feel good or bad about yourself. And if you don't care about any of that, God bless you. It's just one way the world tries to thieve off us. Yeah. Jesus says, don't worry about taking the popularity and taking those things. Don't worry about becoming a YouTube star like the kids want to be. Give. Jesus says these words, Mark 10:42. But Jesus called them to himself and said to them, you know that those who are considered rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them, yet it shall not be so among you. But whoever desires to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever of you desires to be first shall be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. You want life? You want life? The Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd lifts up, he doesn't judge. The Good Shepherd loves, he doesn't fight. The Good Shepherd gives, he doesn't take. That is the beautiful life that God is offering to each and every one of us. It's a life that I want to live. It's a life I am not perfect in by any stretch of the imagination. But it stirs me talking about it to want to live that life and embrace that life and have a revelation of that beautiful life, friend. And it's available to you and it's available to me if we could see it and want it. Why don't we bow our heads? Team's going to come and they're going to sing in a second. And then we're going to come around a time of communion. The Good Shepherd gives his life. He gave his body. He gave his blood. He gave everything. Because he's the Good Shepherd, friend. And he invites you and I to become like him. To embrace that love and that grace. To escape the attacks of the thief over your life, to embrace the shepherd and then to become like the shepherd. So we're going to come around that time as we listen to this song. Caitlin's going to lead us in communion in a couple of minutes. I want you to dwell on those things. Do you want to be embraced by the shepherd? Overcome the thief? You can in Jesus Christ. God bless you, church.